Hey there, friends on YouTube. So, a lot of you guys asked me a bunch of questions, and I promised that I would answer them. And so I'm going to do a quick 20 questions lightning round of answers to a bunch of the questions that I got. And let's start doing it right now. Okay, so like I said, I wanted to get these questions in. I know a lot of people have been asking me questions in the comments, etc., etc. So this was an opportunity for me to get some questions answered. So let's just go ahead and get to the questions. Noel asks me, asks me, since the Galaxy S9 is going to have minimal changes, do you think it will still be worth it this year? It depends. The Galaxy S8 and S8 Plus are still pretty amazing phones, and while the phone companies want us to upgrade every year because that's how they make their money, is it really necessary if you've got an S8 or S8 Plus to get to upgrade to the newest model? I mean, it's an iterative upgrade, new processor. Camera stuff is going to be different, and I don't really know what that's going to look like, but you know, I don't think it's going to be worth it. If you got an S7, S6, something like that, might be worth considering. That Tech Thing asks, what editing software do you use for your videos? I typically use Final Cut Pro if I'm doing like a video. I have used Premiere Pro in the past. I have used some stuff on the iPad in the past. All of it is good in its own ways. Premiere is a little bit more optimized and exports video faster, and my focus these days has been to have more streamlining of the process, so there's less time that I put into that and more time that I can put into the video, so that then I have more time overall. But when I do live streaming, I'm using OBS right now to record this, and it seems to work pretty well. I've got a cam link that takes my mirrorless camera and makes it into a webcam, so I can just sit here and talk to you like this. Matt Mills, would you be willing to get and try a 2018 X Plus if Apple comes out with one? It looks like Apple is coming out with one, and I absolutely would try it for sure. I mean, it's supposed to be 6.5 inches or something. It's going to be a big phone. I like big phones. So again, like, I go back and forth with Apple, as you may have noticed, and I'm always excited to see what their new products are, and if I have the wherewithal to get one, then I absolutely will. Madbird, best pair of headphones for a budget, maybe $100 USD, and then next for any price. Okay, let's pull these up. Okay, so you got a lot of choices here. You've got, these are the Audio-Technica ATH M50 or M40Xs, which are actually a really good headphone, and $100. Then the MDR 7506s, which are really great headphones. I've got the V6, the consumer version, on my head right now. I have used and loved these headphones for 20 plus years, so I got no problems with any of that. So I think you can find a lot of different options around $100 or so dollars. Sennheiser has the HD 599s; those are about $150. The M50X is the for $150. When you want to talk about best headphones for any price, I haven't tried too many headphones that are like thousands of dollars or anything like that. But I have tried the Sennheiser HD 700s, and I have a review of those. I really enjoyed using those. They're $800. And the HD 800 are like $1,500 or something, and they have a new like quasi-closed back version that just came out during CES of this past year. So those, I'm sure, are great, but they're not something that I can get my hands on because I don't have that kind of money to spend on one set of headphones. Corey asks, do you think the new LG flagship G7 will probably is being released in June will bring to the table something different than what the V30 G6 other flagships offer? I hope so. LG always has a lot of really great ideas about what they want their smartphones to do, but in the end, they can't seem to figure out a way to successfully market and sell them. I think moving the release date back so that they're not competing with Apple and Samsung. They came out like right around the same time that the Samsung phones came out last year, and G6 got lost because it didn't have the Snapdragon 835. It had the 825 or whatever the previous model was. So the G6, while it was a good phone, just got lost in the shuffle. I hope that they continue to do what they're doing with audio vis-a-vis the V20 and V30 and V10, and then maybe bring those two models, the G models and the V models, together a little bit, so that they can have one model that they can sell and it's value added for everybody. I'm not sure that anybody would be like, oh, well, I don't want this phone because it has great audio. So that's my answer there. What's the most budget-friendly smartphone which packs all the new features? Android. At this point, I would have to say the OnePlus 5T is the most budget-friendly phone that has the most flexibility into the future with updates and that kind of thing. The OnePlus 5T is kind of one of those phones that if they sold it in stores, if they had carrier agreements where they sold them through carriers, it would be not a budget smartphone. But because they have the business model that they have, they can charge $500 for it or $550 or whatever it is for the 8 gig 128 model and fall into that budget category. Right now I'm reviewing the Honor 7X, which is a $200 smartphone, and that's interesting to me as well because so far in the limited time that I've used it, it's a very good phone, and it's an amazing phone for $200. What do you think is a better buy? Recently released mid-range phone or 2016 flagship phone? 2016 flagship is 2 years old at this point. And I would say the usable life of that phone is starting to go down and this is Android only. I think that because iOS continues to update on multiple versions of those phones for years and years, it takes a long time for Apple devices to get phased out of usefulness. But Android hasn't been the same way. Updates haven't been as steady or as long-lived. So I would once again say go with the OnePlus 5T or something along those lines over something like a 2016 flagship, although you could get 2016 flagships used for pretty cheap, but then your battery life is not going to be what you want it to be. It's going to be glitchy, and you're going to have to take whatever you can get while you could get a fresh brand new phone for $500 from OnePlus, and you're good to go. Huawei makes good phones in about that price range, so that's worth thinking about as well. Max, why is it taking so long to get a fingerprint scanner unreleased? Okay, so I think we have a phone coming out that has a fingerprint scanner underneath the screen. That technology has finally been realized, and we can do it, and it's being done on one phone. It's not a major flagship phone, but it is being done. Jerry Rig Everything I just recently saw had a teardown of that phone and is trying to figure out what the component parts are of the under the screen thing. I just think that a lot of times with these bigger manufacturers, they have to source the parts, they have to have a production schedule, they have to have all that stuff, and they can't be as quick to react as a smaller company. So it might not be this year, and it might not be next year. But we'll have to see how this new technology works in the phones that do adopt it before we can really know. What would Arun says, or is it Ara? What would you change if you were the CEO of Apple? First thing I would do is I realized that Apple is now a lifestyle company. I would try and switch focus to a more balanced thing where they're taking better care of their professional and creative customers. And that's something that they'd always been good at, they'd always done. and they have not been treating those customers to the same upgrade schedule as the consumers. So I'd like to see the new Mac Pro. I'd like to see an iPhone Pro, something that's a little bit more durable, something that brings back the headphone jack, something that is geared toward creative content creation. And I think we could do that. I don't, Apple puts Pro on everything else, so why not put Pro on an iPhone and say it's, for the more creative minded, and bring back the headphone jack. That's what I say. How do you hope to separate yourself from the YouTube pack? Well, I live in Iowa, and there aren't too many YouTubers around here, so I'm pretty separate. But seriously, that's a great question. I've kind of been down this road with being a musician and being a writer, and I do all these things, and I'm a little bit older and have a little bit more experience in doing them, so that trying to find my niche is not as important to me. I think I've found my niche. I think when I renamed the channel Painfully Honest Tech, that gave me some good hook that would instantly announce to people what my channel was all about. And I think I've been able to deliver on that. So it's breeding a culture where people know and understand what I'm all about. And I think ultimately that will separate me from the rest of the YouTube pack. But that's not my focus. My focus is to do my own thing, do it as well as I can, and grow as much as I can, because I really enjoy doing this. Have you done anything about your own gear recently? It would be interesting to find out what you use and why you chose it. Seems to be a lot of interest in mid-range phones lately. Well, I talked about mid-range phones already, so I'm going to answer the first part a little bit. Yes, I have done some significant upgrading or changing of my whole setup here in the interest of being able to sit here at the desk, use a dynamic microphone plugged into an XLR input, and then it shouldn't be as hard as it is, but video and audio don't like to work well together. So I've got a new Yamaha MG10XU mixing board that I use to bring all of the audio sources that come from different places, because I also have a Thunderbolt interface, and then the audio from the mixer goes to USB, and I just set this up last night, so it's a work in progress. But yeah, I have made some changes. Questions about addiction and recovery. I would be happy to answer any questions. It's a weird subject, and it's a hard subject to cover in the confines of a tech channel. But if people are really interested in me talking about that kind of stuff, then leave me a comment down in the comment section, and I'll try and figure out a way that I could effectively tackle that topic, and I'll try and figure out a way to do it, but I'd love to talk about that stuff with people. Favorite Beatle and why? John is my favorite Beatle, mostly because he was the one that, when I was younger, I identified with the most. There was just something about John and his personality and his acerbic nature, and just like the buzzsaw quality of his voice, like, I don't know. I just really responded to him, and he was my favorite Beatle. And I still remember the day when he was shot, and my mom buying me the People magazine with him on the cover. And I was only 8 years old, but about to turn 9 when he was killed. But I was a huge fan of the Beatles at that time, so John passing away was a big deal. Over the years, I've come to appreciate all of the other Beatles in a lot of different ways. I think George became he had a lot of stuff left over from the Beatles. And so his initial couple of solo records are really, really good. And his songwriting really matured at about that time. So I like George for what he did in his solo career. Paul McCartney is, he's like a magical being. Nobody should be able to do what Paul McCartney is able to do, especially now that he's in his 70s. But even Ringo, to me, is the best rock and roll drummer that has been has ever existed. And there are a lot of reasons behind that that I can go into if you want me to, but right now I'm trying to get through these questions. If you want me to talk more about music stuff, again, it's not necessarily for this channel, but I can figure out a way that I could start to do that stuff because I know and love music and would love to talk about it more. Okay? Favorite Beatles song? Rain. It's the one I keep coming back to. There's just something about it. Maybe it's just that I haven't heard it over and over and over and over again, but I love that song. There's just something that I respond to. So there's that. Why do headsets with internal mics sound like crap? The mic itself. Mostly because they've got the mic is a tiny little thing that's stuck in the headphone itself. And so you don't have good proximity to your mouth. And the microphone itself is probably not all that great. So, and they do this to meet a price point. If you notice, like the Sony Golds are around $99, the Platinums are around $159. If they were to put really good microphones on them, you could probably add like $40 or $50 to those prices. And I just think they want to hit the price point more than they want to give the quality, because most people are just like, whatever. Neil Smith, bit of your speculation on the future of the iPad. Is it destined for a notch, etc., etc.? I really hope that the next iPad, I think Face ID on the iPad would work really well. I hope they find a way to do it without a notch. I don't think you can have an iPad that has 0 bezels, because it's a different kind of physical experience when you're holding it. And you have to have some edge to it to be able to hold it somewhat comfortably. So I look for them to have, more screen to body ratio, but I don't, and to bring Face ID, but I don't think they're going to do any kind of under the screen fingerprint reader. And I hope they're going to find some way to not have the notch, but have the Face ID. Xiaomi is launching a gamer mobile. So this is from Michael Freeland. Xiaomi is launching a new gamer mobile. Do you see a trend coming soon that every major brand will offer one targeted toward this clientele? I know that the Razer phone kind of came out. I think the Razer phone surprised a lot of people, and it had a lot of features that really one-upped a lot of the more consumer-based smartphones. I don't know how successful the Razer phone has been. I don't know what the sales figures are or anything like that, but I do know that they have been that phone sort of maybe gave people an idea that might be a thing. I don't see major flagship developers like LG or Apple or Samsung going in that direction. Xiaomi has like 1 million phones out all at once, so it makes sense for me for them to have one. Mid-range companies might offer a spec'd up model for a premium, but I can't see Apple. I want to see Apple have like the iPhone Pro, but I don't see them going strictly for gaming, because their chips and their stuff are already, it's already well ahead of the Qualcomm stuff anyway. So I don't see Apple doing that. I don't see Samsung doing it. Samsung puts too much stuff in their phones already. So, I'd rather see like a Samsung like Galaxy S9 Lite. But yeah. What features would make up the ideal smartphone, computer, or laptop? For me, computer-wise, the ease of use of Mac OS with the modularity and upgradability of a PC, and that could look like a lot of different things. Smartphone, more durable, headphone jack. iPhone Pro. Laptop. I don't know. I mean, laptops are weird, and they're increasingly becoming like sort of an in-between product. So I don't have much of an opinion on laptop stuff. Sean, who is your inspiration when it comes to tech? My inspiration when it comes to tech, Um, I don't know that I really. I've watched a lot of tech YouTubers over the years, but my interest in tech goes way back beyond when YouTube was just in its beginning. Like I used to have a blog. It was not I didn't do it for a long time, but I had a blog about tech, and so I've always been really opinionated. I don't know if you guys have noticed this. And my goal has always been to find a good way to bring my opinionated stance on things uh, to the audience in the best possible way. And I found bits and pieces of people's stuff that gave me ideas, but I don't know that I could really call anyone tech YouTuber or tech personality as like my inspiration. And that's it. We're back to null. So thank you guys very much for being here. I hope that these questions were interesting and the answers were cogent. And if you want me to do this again, let me know about that in the comments. There are many things that you can let me know in the comments below if you so choose. But I really do appreciate the questions. I do appreciate the time, and I appreciate you being here. If this is your first time here, please consider hitting the likey, subscribey, bell notify buttons and come back and see me again. We got a great community here. I'm really happy with how it's growing and how we're communicating with one another. I also have a Patreon. If that interests you, you could check that out. But anyway, thanks again for being here. My name's Jason, sometimes known as the JTL. This is Painfully Honest Tech. Tech so honest it hurts. Hurts. Like my back hurts right now. Oh. Until the next time, I'm out.